So check this out, there's construction happening across. I'm gonna bring the Vivo X100 Pro here. Zoom in to, let's do 50x. And this is the shot. Hey everybody, hope you guys are healthy and safe. So I've been wanting to make this video for weeks. This is my review of the Vivo X100 Pro. If you follow me on social media, like on Twitter, you will probably have seen that I've been a big fan of Vivo's X series for the past several years. It started with the Vivo X70 Pro Plus. I do a lot of side-by-side camera comparison. Basically, the Vivo beat everybody. Vivo X80 Pro continued that, but then the Vivo X90 Pro Plus, which was only launched in China, jumped another level. I purchased that phone myself and I shot a video with it in Japan. I just remember spending days in Tokyo taking pictures of everything. And I spent 2 months on Twitter tweeting the X90 Pro Plus is the best camera phone. And I actually paid for that myself. Vivo didn't even send me one. So basically, it doesn't matter whether brands send me phones or not. I will evaluate the camera objectively. And yeah, the Vivo X100 Pro is the best camera right now for still photos, night photos, and especially portraits. I am absolutely smitten with the Periscope zoom lens here. 50 megapixel, shoots at a focal length of 100 millimeter. So that's a very good portrait focal length. You get really shallow depth of field, but you add on Vivo's vintage film filter and it just produces some of the most jaw-droppingly beautiful images that I've ever captured with a phone. I mean, just look at these samples right here. I shot all of these with the Vivo X100 Pro. I did not make any edits to it myself. These are just completely off of the phone. In particular, this shot at the coffee shop is so damn good. The focus is on the coffee machine and then you have bokeh in the background and also on the foreground too. This is just a really beautiful looking shot that does not look like it came out from a smartphone. And then likewise, check out this night shot here I snapped randomly. I was sitting in a taxi stuck in traffic and I just shot this 4x zoom of a biker waiting outside the mall. This is low light. Look at the bokeh, look at the lighting, look at the details, and look at how little noise there is. It's a combination of really good hardware, the Periscope zoom lens with Vivo's V3 chip, and also Vivo's software, which has produced some of the best looking images over the last 3 years. So I've spent minutes talking about how good this camera is. I will circle back to gush about the camera some more. First, I want to step away from the cameras and talk about my overall thoughts on the phone. And I want to start with the things I don't like. I'm going to take a page out of Flossie Carter. So I'm going to start with the negatives. But overall, I still like this phone a lot. But there are some things I wish Vivo had done differently. So the first complaint I have about the Vivo X100 Pro is I think the design, it's a little bit outdated. It's a little bit boring. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is a perfectly fine looking phone, but this is a very 2019, 2020 Android looking device, right? You have the curved screens that curves on the left and right side. And it comes in a very narrow frame, so when you hold it, this side feels a little bit pointy. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with this design per se, but it just feels a little bit outdated, especially having seen the Xiaomi 14 Pro. So this phone uses a titanium frame. It's much flatter on the sides like an iPhone. So this is like the new trend that Android phones are going into. And you have a screen that is a little bit more flat, but it is not completely flat. It still curves on all 4 sides and it feels very comfortable in the hand. This is a unique in-hand feel. This is an in-hand feel that I didn't get from an Android phone last year or 2 years ago. Whereas the Vivo X100 Pro, this thing feels exactly like the Vivo X70 Pro Plus, and that phone's 3 years old. 3 years in the Android space, it's a very long time. I think it's time for a design overhaul. The second thing I have an issue with is I'm using the global model and this runs FunTouch OS. And FunTouch OS, there's like nothing majorly wrong with it. It's still an okay software, but it's a very outdated looking software. It's a little bit bland. The animations are a little bit slow, like compared to, you know, if you used a OnePlus phone or an Oppo phone, animations are so fluid, so fast. This animation just feels a little bit slow, even though it is still 120 hertz. And all the app icons, they just look a little bit boring, like this generic circular icons. Vivo knows this because Vivo designed a software for its flagship phones like 2-3 years ago, the Origin OS. But for some reason, Vivo is not bringing Origin OS to international audiences. So we're still stuck with this very outdated looking FunTouch software that looks like it should be in 2018. I've used Origin OS and Origin OS is awesome. I love the interactive widgets. the gigantic folders and icons that you can move around. It's just a visually very punchy software UI. Now, another thing I'm going to nitpick about, and keep in mind, these are all nitpicks, it's the chip in here. It runs on Mediatek Dimensity 9300. This is Mediatek's best chip right now, and it is a flagship level chip in most parts, but it does heat up a little bit more easily than the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 that's used in the Xiaomi 14 Pro. I ran a 20-minute wildlife extreme stress test in App 3D Mark. This is a pretty common test that all of us reviewers run. It basically pushes the phone's resources to the max for 20 minutes and it will run 20 different loops. And you can see that the 9300 started out very strong, but you can see that towards the last 2 or 3 loops, the performance dipped a lot. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 definitely performs better in the Xiaomi 14 Pro. And it's also not as efficient because I find battery life here to drain a little bit faster than I would like. Now again, battery life, it's not bad, but this is a phone that if I'm using it very heavily, I can get it to drain from 100% down to 20% in about 8 hours, like 7-8 hours. That's, you know, not too terrible, but that's not amazing. With other phones, I can usually get 10 or 11 hours. So that means on a Saturday when I'm out all day, I will need to charge this phone like way before my night is finished. Probably at like 6 or 7 p.m. I will need to plug it in to charge it. The good news is the phone charges very fast. 100 watt fast charging, and it supports wireless charging too. And the charger is included with the box, obviously. That's about it in terms of overall nitpicks. Otherwise, I like this phone a lot. The screen is a 6.8-inch LTPO OLED panel. Even though the animations are a little bit slow in my opinion, the screen looks good. You know, viewing angles are excellent. It gets plenty bright. I don't think Vivo released official numbers, but we have reached a point in flagship smartphones where we know it's going to get bright enough. The days of a phone screen being hard to see outside are over. The last phone that was that bad was the Pixel 6 from 2 years ago. There's stereo speakers here, IP68 water and dust resistant, so all the flagship flourishes that you would expect are here. But let's go back to the main event and the main reason why I'm going to keep using this phone going forward. The camera system is freaking awesome. So you have a triple lens system. The main camera is a 50 megapixel Sony IMX989 1-inch sensor with a relatively fast f/1.75 aperture. So this main camera does a really good job of producing details, dynamic range, and you get a lot of natural bokeh because of that large sensor. And because the sensor is so large and you have so many pixels to play with, you can punch in to do a 2x zoom and it appears lossless because you're doing in sensor crop. And Vivo's V3 chip, again, is just uncanny in terms of producing HDR. Another thing I like that Vivo did with the camera system is, so here are the zoom dial buttons. If you tap into 1x, it will actually jump into a tighter crop. So you can shoot at 35mm, which I like because I think the standard lens is too wide. And likewise with 2x, you can tap it once to jump into 46mm, and you tap again to go into 50mm. So that would be like a 2.3x. And this is the tele lens, 4.3, 100mm. I mean, check out how sharp this image is. It's a 4.3x zoom, natural bokeh. But then if you tap into the zoom lens again, you jump up to 135mm, which is a 5.8x, and then 200mm, and then 10x, you can go all the way up to 600mm. And even 600mm, you're getting a really damn good image because this zoom lens is so freaking good. But I love to be able to quickly tap on an icon to get to a focal length that's a little bit more popular, because this 23mm focal length is too wide. Like professional photographers usually don't walk around with a 23 or 24mm lens. Professional photographers usually like to shoot in 35, 50, 75 or 100. And I like that Vivo's lens give you access to those focal length with just one tap. So the main camera is awesome and video performance is really good too with excellent stabilization. But again, I ultimately love the zoom lens the most. This zoom lens is so good, and because the image sensor is relatively large, a 1/2 inch, and I guess Vivo's V3 chip does a lot of processing, you can actually jump all the way up to 10x and get really sharp, almost optical zoom. And the best part is, even at night, you get a really clean shot. I mean, check out right here. This is mind-blowing. This is a 10x zoom shot of a really dark scene, and then look at how it looks after the shot. This is heavily processed by Vivo, but it still looks really damn good. In fact, even up to 25x zoom, you can get pretty usable shots. Now, I am noticing that once you go beyond 10x zoom, Vivo will do a lot of processing. I believe even using a little bit of AI to kind of artificially enhance the image. Because when I take like a 25x image of like a building, the shot looks amazingly sharp. But then when I try to do the same thing into a mirror of my face, you can see my face looks really weird here, right? Because of that artificial processing. Like this looks very scary. But I guess as long as you're not shooting human faces, the 25x zoom is more than good enough because the processing will be able to remove the noise and also straighten a lot of lines. So when you're shooting like architecture, it just looks clean. You compare the zoom lens of the Vivo against the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I mean, if you're shooting under good lighting, then the iPhone still can kind of do a pretty good job. But if you move into low light conditions, it is a completely one-sided ass whooping in favor of Vivo. Even against the Xiaomi 14 Pro, Vivo's zoom lens is still noticeably better, but I guess that makes sense because the Xiaomi 14 Pro actually does not have a periscope zoom lens. But like I said earlier, ultimately I love shooting with the vintage film filter in portrait mode. It will add a little bit of artificial bokeh, but you can fix the degree of artificial bokeh after the fact. You can dial it down a little bit if you don't like it, but it produces some of the best looking shots that I've ever snapped with my phone, and I am obsessed with this camera. Even the most mundane scene, it gives it like a vibe, it gives it like a mood that I like a lot. And in fact, Vivo actually toned down the over stylization that was in the iQOO 12 and in last year's Vivo X100 Pro Plus. So now the images are a little bit less like crazy stylized, but still has that vintage analog film feel to it. Video performance with the zoom lens can be a little bit hit and miss. You get really good details and really good bokeh, but stabilization is a little bit below par. So if you're moving and walking, you get a lot of that bobble up and down movement. You're watching footage shot of the main camera of the Vivo X100 Pro for it. So right now you're watching low light footage, main camera. Let's switch out to the ultra wide. This is the ultra wide. And you have the 4.3x telephoto zoom. This is 100 meter zoom right here. But we're just talking about snapping still photos. This is the new king on the block. So this is the Vivo X100 Pro in a nutshell. I wish the design was a little bit better. I just don't love this in-hand feel the way I love the Xiaomi 14 Pro. And I don't love the software. But the camera performance is so good, I'm willing to accept all those compromises to keep using this phone because I'm obsessed with snapping street portraits of this camera. It is so damn good. So yeah, that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channel and also follow me on Instagram. I've been posting a lot of photo samples on there. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.